Welcome to this Friday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. Another Nepalese student has been found dead at Odisha's KIIT University. Now, this marks the second such case in under 90 days or 3 months. The 18-year-old first-year student was discovered hanging in a hostel room Thursday evening. Meanwhile, police suspect suicide but are awaiting post-mortem results. The earlier case, for perspective, was in February that involved a student who had in fact filed a sexual harassment complaint. Now, both deaths have sparked protests and raised serious concerns about campus safety and the university's handling of international student welfare as well. The Ministry of External Affairs is in touch with the government of Odisha and the authorities at the campus. Meanwhile, here's what the local DCP said, followed by a ground report by my colleague Ratnadeep.
कल इवनिंग में एक बॉडी हैंगिंग अवस्था में किट से इंफॉर्मेशन आया था, किट यूनिवर्सिटी से, कि एक रूम में ऐसे उनको पता चला है। तो इमीडिएटली उन्होंने पुलिस को बुलाया था, पुलिस वहाँ गई थी और इमीडिएटली बॉडी को जो हैंगिंग अवस्था में थी उसको नीचे किया गया और हो सकता था कि लाइफ हो बॉडी में और बची हो लड़की, तो इसलिए इमीडिएटली उसको जो लोकल हॉस्पिटल है, जो किम्स हॉस्पिटल है, वहाँ पे ट्रीटमेंट के लिए लेके गया। वहाँ पे पहुँचने के बाद पता चला कि शी इज़ नो मोर। पता चला है प्रिलिमिनरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में कि वो लड़की नेपाल से है और फर्स्ट ईयर स्टूडेंट थी यहाँ पर कंप्यूटर साइंस एंड इंजीनियरिंग में।
In a major development being reported from Odisha, last night the authorities of Kalinga Institute of Technology have reported to the Bhubaneswar police about a girl from Nepal who is a student of BTech first year, 18-year-old girl. She was found dead in her hostel room. Now, what police sources have given to tell us that in the prima facie investigation, they have found it to be, it looks like a case of a suicide. Now, the police was given information that a student had committed suicide in her room and she did not, according to initial report, did not respond to the evening roll call that is done mandatorily in the hostels by the warden, and then when her room was searched, her body was found. Now, this is in fact in the last 3 months the second case of a student from Nepal studying in KIIT committing suicide. Earlier, another student had committed suicide, and now this 18-year-old who is a resident of Birganj of Nepal. In fact, her family has reached Odisha. That's what authorities have given us to understand. In fact, Odisha government has also issued a statement saying, that proper investigation will be done in this case as to how this incident has taken place. In fact, the Nepal government is also in touch with New Delhi over this incident, and at this moment the police in Odisha is investigating this case.
In his first major shake-up since taking office, US President Donald Trump has reassigned National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and has in fact named Secretary of State Marco Rubio as his interim replacement. Now, this move follows a scandal. Yes, that's right, a scandal involving a leaked signal chat that revealed internal discussions about potential bombing campaign in Yemen. Rubio now becomes the first person since Henry Kissinger to hold both posts simultaneously. Meanwhile, Trump has said that Waltz will be nominated as the US ambassador to the UN or the United Nations. Now, the shake-up comes amid broader turmoil within the Trump administration's national security team, with over 20 staffers fired alone since the 1st of April. My colleague Kate Fisher reports the latest from Washington.
Donald Trump had been trying to avoid the frequent staffing overhauls that had characterised his first term in office, and he made it to 101 days before making changes to his top team. The decision comes after Waltz accidentally included a journalist on a group chat about military operations in Yemen. The Trump administration has downplayed the security risks, and it said that no classified material was shared in the chat, which was on a commercial messaging app. Now, some of Mr. Trump's inner circle have also considered that Mr. Waltz is too hawkish to work for a president who campaigned, of course, as a skeptic of American military intervention and who wants to make deals with Iran and Russia, countries who've traditionally been America's adversaries. But by nominating him as UN ambassador, a job that requires Senate approval, President Trump has given Democratic lawmakers the chance to grill Waltz over the opening months of the Trump presidency and compel him to sworn testimony on sensitive matters, including that Signal group chat controversy. By appointing his Secretary of State to replace Waltz as National Security Advisor in the interim, Donald Trump's entrusting Marco Rubio with enormous power over the US's domestic and foreign security apparatus. And it's the first time since Henry Kissinger that one person has performed both roles. Mr. Rubio has also been serving as the acting head of both the gutted US Agency for International Development as well as the National Archives. Kate Fisher, NDTV, Washington.
US President Donald Trump has threatened secondary sanctions against countries that continue purchasing oil or petrochemicals from Iran. Now, the warning comes amid heightened trade tensions, international trade tensions. Meanwhile, speaking of Canada, there's some relief for Canada's auto industry at least. How? The US Customs has confirmed that auto parts compliant with Canada-US-Mexico agreement or the CUSMA won't face the new 25% tariff set to take effect this Saturday. Now, the move comes after months of pressure from automakers warning of job losses and even price hikes. My colleague Mahal Siddiqui brings you the latest from Vancouver.
Yet another carve-out has been announced in the Trump tariffs in the auto sector. This time, all CUSMA-compliant auto parts will be exempt from the 25% tariffs in this sector. CUSMA is the trade agreement in North America between US, Mexico and Canada. Earlier, the Trump administration had announced that the auto parts made in America would be exempt from the 25% punishing tariffs in the auto sector. However, it soon became clear that it would be very difficult to identify exactly which auto part is American-made because of the highly integrated nature of the supply chain, especially in the auto sector in North America. Hence, the final fact sheet released on Thursday says that all CUSMA-compliant auto parts will now be out of the ambit of the 25% tariff, which was to come into effect on Saturday. Now, since the announcement of the 25% tariff in the auto sector last month by the Trump administration, the auto giants like GM, Ford and Stellantis have been expressing their concern over the effect of these tariffs on the auto sector, especially with regards immediately to the jobs in the auto sector, expressing fears that there would be job losses. Moreover, companies like Ford and GM have also expressed the losses that they would suffer.
US President Donald Trump has threatened secondary sanctions against countries that continue purchasing oil or petrochemicals from Iran. The warning comes as China's Iranian oil imports have hit a record high. Trump's move is being seen as a pressure tactic amid nuclear negotiations and also escalating trade tensions with both Iran and China. Meanwhile, the foreign minister of Oman has announced that a fourth round of US-Iran talks on the nuclear program have been postponed. My colleague Vishal Vivek, meanwhile, joins us to break down the implications of these secondary sanctions on countries like India.
Well, Arjun, Iran had been India's third largest source of crude oil until 2019 when the US imposed fresh sanctions. So that was about 6 years ago. And now Iran has been relegated to the 71st position in the world when it comes to the export of crude oil. And it's almost down to zero when it comes to imports into India. And that reflects the level of effects those sanctions have had on Iran's oil exports and imports. And it goes on to show what kind of effect these sanctions can have on these big suppliers of oil across the world. And this is yet another effort by the US administration to, arm twist the Iranian administration into accepting those terms that it wants the Iranian regime to accept so that it can curtail the nuclear program of Iran regime, which it has been trying to control for a while now. We all remember a deal was signed in 2015, which Trump later backtracked from. So those deals will also be in focus when another round of talks happen. But for now, these fresh sanctions could further be detrimental to the overall cause of Iran's crude oil exports.
Thank you so much for that, Vishal. Moving on, from Washington to New York and Los Angeles, May Day protests have turned into a national outcry against President Trump's immigration crackdowns and also plans to, in fact, cut Medicaid. Lawyers, labor unions and immigrant rights groups led demonstrations, accusing the administration of, in fact, favoring billionaires over working families. Several protesters were seen being taken in custody during a May Day rally in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, lawmakers, including Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, rallied protesters warning that cuts to Medicaid are still looming despite a temporary pause. Here's what they said.
Now, I'm not going to tell you that the struggle in front of us is easy. The oligarchs own the economy, they own the media, they own the political process. That's the reality. And I may not have a PhD in mathematics, but there is one thing I do understand. That if we do not allow Trump and his friends to divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation, if we stand together around a progressive agenda, if we start electing candidates who work for us and not the billionaire class, if we think big and not small, brothers and sisters, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. Let's go out, let's do it, let's transform the country. Thank you all very much.
China has said that it's evaluating an offer from the US to hold talks over tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump. The 145% duties have strained relations and rattled markets, to say the least. But Beijing's Commerce Ministry has said that its door is open to negotiations, if Washington, however, shows sincerity. While both sides signal a willingness to talk time and over again, Beijing has in fact warned that coercion and pressure tactics will not work. The developments raise hopes of a potential de-escalation in the ongoing trade war. Over in Washington, US Vice President J.D. Vance has said that the war in Ukraine is unlikely to end soon. Yes, that's correct. He told Fox News that Russia and Ukraine must find middle ground to stop this conflict. Now, his comments follow a new US-Ukraine deal to share profits from rare earth minerals in exchange for future American security assistance, at least for now. Van also defended President Trump's approach, even as Trump hinted Ukraine might cede Crimea to achieve peace, a suggestion Ukrainian President Zelensky opposed vehemently. Meanwhile, on the battle lines, fighting continues. A Russian drone strike in Zaporizhzhia injured 14 people, while Russia accused Ukraine of bombing a market in the occupied south, killing 7, a claim Kiev denies. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to defund the NPR and the PBS, accusing them of bipartisan bias. The order directs the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to halt direct funding and cancel existing grants. Critics have said that the move undermines press freedom and effectively essential news access as well, especially in rural and underserved communities across the US. In a major upset for UK's Labour Party, Reform UK has won a Runcorn and Helsby by-election by just 6 votes. They've overturned a 14,700 vote majority. The narrow victory gives Reform its 5th MP and raises fears within Labour of further losses to Nigel Farage's party in the next general election. Now, the seat became vacant after Labour MP Mike Amsbury resigned following a criminal conviction. Immigration, energy bills and public anger over Labour's local decisions have dominated the campaign. Meanwhile, Reform's success in this Labour stronghold is being seen as a breakthrough moment, to say the least, for the Populist Party. South Korea's former acting president Han Duck-soo has announced his candidacy for the country's upcoming snap presidential election scheduled for the 3rd of June. Now, the move comes a day after Han resigned from office, with political observers saying his experience may very well make him a strong contender in a closely watched election race. As time is limited to a short break, I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report. On to some climate stories now. A woman and her 3 children were killed after heavy winds led to a tree falling on their room in South Delhi's Dwarka, due to an intense storm that followed heavy rain between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. this morning that brought much of the capital to a standstill. The sudden weather conditions disrupted normal life as massive waterlogging and traffic snarls, as on your screens, were reported across several parts of the city. Hundreds of flights were also delayed, while some have been diverted. Meanwhile, strong winds and a dust storm were followed by heavy rains in New Delhi and the national capital region as well. Israel's fire service has said that more than 150 teams are continuing to battle what are said to be the worst wildfires in the country's history. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared a national emergency when several blazes broke out on Wednesday outside Jerusalem. He said strong winds and dryness had created a deadly combination or a cocktail. Several towns have been evacuated. However, main roads which were closed into the city have now been reopened to usual traffic. The Magen David Adam Ambulance Service has said that it has treated 23 people, mostly for smoke inhalation and burns. Israel, meanwhile, has requested for international help, including firefighting planes, to help put out the remaining blaze. Down south, schools were closed and flights cancelled as New Zealand's capital Wellington was hit by its strongest winds in over a decade this Thursday. A state of emergency, in fact, was declared in parts of South Island after 24 hours of incessant heavy rains. The government forecaster have revealed an average wind speeds reach up to 87 kilometers an hour in Wellington, the strongest they've been since 2013, in fact, in more than 12 years. Gusts south of the capital in coastal Bering Head touched 160 kilometers an hour ahead. The world of business, Apple has said that it expects to take a $900 million hit from new import tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. This despite exemptions for key electronics like phones and computers. The tech giant is rapidly shifting production of iPhones bound for the US out of China and into India, with CEO Tim Cook confirming that most iPhones sold in the US this summer will be India-made, or made in India rather. Vietnam will now also assemble the bulk of iPads, Macs, Apple Watches and AirPods for the US. Meanwhile, Apple's revenue rose 5% year-on-year to $95.4 billion. Meanwhile, Amazon also posted strong earnings and has in fact said that it's adapting its supply chain to weather tariff uncertainty. NVIDIA has raised red flags in Washington over the rise of Huawei's artificial intelligence capabilities. CEO Jensen Huang met privately with members of the US House Foreign Affairs Committee, warning that export restrictions may very well on NVIDIA's chip lead to boost demand for Huawei's alternatives. Meanwhile, lawmakers were told that if Chinese models are optimized for Huawei's chips, it could very well reshape global AI chip demand. NVIDIA, for perspective, has backed US efforts to curb Chinese tech dominance, but with Huawei preparing to ramp up shipments of its own AI chips, the stakes are only growing. A US judge has sharply questioned Meta's use of copyrighted books to train its AI models, saying it could obliterate the market for original content. Authors including Junot Diaz and Sarah Silverman accused Meta of using pirated versions of their work to train its Llama model. Now, Meta argues it's fair use, but the judge seemed unconvinced and unmoved. So much so, warning that AI-generated content could flood markets. The outcome may also set a major precedent for how AI firms access creative content. Danske Bank posted stronger than expected quarterly profits and held its 2025 outlook steady, this despite global economic uncertainty. The Nordic lender spent a 2% rise in profit, driven by resilient credit quality and strong regional growth. Meanwhile, US tariffs are rattling global markets. They continue to rattle global markets. In fact, Danske says the impact on its core Nordic operations should be moderate. The bank sees encouraging signs for its inflation and employment across Denmark and neighboring countries as well, even as global fears of recession keep on becoming stronger. Manchester United legend or Man U legend David Beckham celebrates his 50th birthday with friends and family in London this Friday. The former footballer will toast the milestone birthday with a lavish dinner spread party at the 3 Michelin-star restaurant Code in the heart of central London. David and Victoria's children, meanwhile, are all set and all reported to be on the guest list for the bash, with celebrity friends including the likes of Tom Cruise and former Man U class of 92 teammates also expected to attend. Beckham gained over 100 caps playing international football for England as well. Transgender women will be banned from playing on women's soccer teams in England following a UK Supreme Court ruling last month. The Football Association has said it has decided to change its rules that had allowed transgender athletes to previously play on women's soccer teams if they had reduced testosterone levels. The Scottish Football Association, meanwhile, made a similar decision only last week. World of Entertainment Hollywood star George Clooney has earned his first ever Tony Award nomination for his Broadway debut in Good Night and Good Luck. Now, Clooney is up for the Best Actor in a Leading Role in a Play for the adaptation of the 2005 political drama, which he also, interestingly for your perspective, co-wrote. The play earned 5 nominations, though surprisingly missed a Best Play nod. Also earning first-time nominations are Nicole Scherzinger and Sarah Snook. Leading the pack this year are musicals Buena Vista Social Club, Death Becomes Her, and Maybe a Happy Ending, each with 10 nominations, by the way. The Tonys will be held on the 8th of June in downtown New York. Singer-songwriter Jill Sobule, best known for her 1990s hit Supermodel and I Kissed a Girl, has died in a house fire near Minneapolis. She was 66 years old. Now, Sobulu's music spanned satire and special commentary, was set to perform in Denver this week. Her manager confirmed her death, calling for a trailblazer in LGBTQ representation in pop music culture. And Green Day, the Grammy-winning rock trio, cemented their legacy with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, the band Billy Joe Armstrong, Mike Dirnt, and Trey Cool arrived to roaring cheers as fans lined up Hollywood Boulevard outside of Amoeba Music. Meanwhile, actor Ryan Reynolds delivered a heartfelt tribute, cheekily referring also to Armstrong's skincare routine as the best 6 hours I spent every night. On to some royal news. UK's Kings Charles III and Queen Camilla were joined by Swedish royals to plant a tree in the grounds of the Windsor Castle. Now, Charles and Swedish King Carl XVI Gustav planted a Swedish oak tree which was gifted from the royal nursery at the Solliden Palace. The tree was planted to mark Charles and Camilla's coronation almost 2 years ago. That's all we have for you today. Take care and have a wonderful weekend.